Hey everyone, Ekman here with another video, and today we've got a top 32 breakdown for the core TCG One Piece regionals that happened this past weekend. They had just under 1,000 players, 10 rounds of Swiss day 1 into a top 32 cut day 2, and most importantly as well, the new starter decks were legal for this event. So starter decks 15 through 20 were legal to play. It's the 8.5 format, and there's a lot of cool data, and I'm really looking forward to going over it as well. So this also was a big weekend for One Piece in general, where there are two other large regionals in North America with 8.5 legal, which I will be making pages for them on my website, Eggman Events, as soon as I get that those deck lists. So just be on the wait on that one, but I will be covering those when I can. Likely making videos, just depends on the timing for getting those. So you can make sure to check those out. And in general, one, if you guys are new to the channel, please make sure to hit that like and subscribe. It does mean a lot, and I really do appreciate all the support from there. We just hit 30K, so thank you for that milestone. And then also, if you guys haven't checked out my website, you can check out here again all of the events we've gone over. Future ones, we're going to continue to update it, and you can make sure to check that out as well. And lastly, we were doing the live stream for this event as well. I was commentating with So Strongest Wizard, which you guys can check out his channel. Make sure to follow him, and I know he would appreciate it, and I would too. But it's currently on Twitch and YouTube for subscribers and members respectively. And in the next 24 hours or so, I should be releasing a super cut of all the matches for it, free to watch, edited down, timestamps for the matches, so you can make sure to check that out. But if you guys want to put a little bit extra support and get to see it a little bit early, you can make sure to check that out too. But jumping on into this event in particular, again, 994 players, 10 rounds of Swiss best of 1 into top 32 cut, and in the top 32 we did have 10 Lucci, 7 starter deck, 13 Luffy, 4 Enel, 4 Donquixote Doflamingo, 4 Bonney, and then one of the purple Luffy, the Nami, as well as a Smoker. So a pretty general cut of what this looks like. I think that like Dofi has entered this meta, but not with like a boom, right? We can see the leader breakdown on the right here, where we did have 253 Doflamingos, 181 Luccis, 96 starter deck, 13 Luffys, 91 Bonnies, 75 purple Luffys, 66 Enel, 26 Smokers, 24 Katakuris, 22 Namis, 21 Reijus, and 20 Marcos, with then a couple others from there. So it was really interesting to see the conversion rates for a lot of these decks. Dofi obviously was a quarter of the room, which I was kind of predicting going into this, and I think a lot of other people were, but it just it didn't really convert up into top cut placement, right? Only 4 of the 20 or 253 people were able to get into top 32, which is not a super good conversion rate, and I think it's a combination of it being newer, but also the fact that there's a lot of people who are trying to counter it. It was really a high visibility leader that I knew that a lot of people are going to be playing, and I think a lot of other people did too. So Lucci being the second most played leader and the top placing leader into the top cut is pretty impactful too. I think it just has ways to shift for the meta, and it can adjust to what as many Dofis as we did see. And then I think it was also really interesting to see starter deck 13 Luffy was, I promise I'm not just saying this because it won, but it was still what I predicted to win for this one. It is something that you still have to adjust to new decks, and Dofi does have some tricks that you do have to be aware of, but it's still just a super strong deck. And if Lucci is still so present, and it was super present in a top 32 manner, it's just something that I think can continue to perform on that side. So other than that, you guys can check out the data. It was interesting to see one purple Luffy from there since that, and then Smoker getting an appearance, and also Nami I wasn't expecting. Also weird anecdote, Nami was only 22 people were playing it, but it was at table 1 and table 2 for round 1, which made it difficult to not have a non-Nami matchup at times. But I was really curious to see that people were still playing it, and what number. So 22 people, and then one was able to get into the top 32, which I was not expecting from this event. I thought that the Dofis would keep it at bay, but was still able to get that top there. So that's kind of just the general data. You guys can make sure to check it out on the website again if you guys want to. But let's go into the deck list, starting with our first place list, which is Nicky's version of the Monkey.D.Luffy. Now, I don't know what I can say about Black Yellow Luffy that I haven't said in the last couple months. It's been a very present deck in this format in general. Kind of warps the meta around it a little bit, and it just kind of pivots to how good this Sabo card is. The fact that you're able to play it for really 2 Dawn and be able to protect your board while building a board at the same time. It's very, very tough to interact with this card for a lot of decks. Now, I do think that there are some cards that are coming up with it. Bonney being a little bit present is a little bit tricky tricky for Luffy. Doflamingo has a lot of ways to bounce cards back to hand or bottom deck stuff, which bottom decking is really tough for this deck because it doesn't, keeps it out of rotation from your trash. And then also cards like Uso Hachi for purple, being able to just get the quick and easy rest on the Sabo can make quite the difference too. So I do think this deck is very present. It's something that has to continually adjust to like threats that can't exist for it in the meta. And the card pool for this deck is like 20-30 cards, right? We know the cards that are good for this deck, and then we run 4 copies of it, and we got a little bit of wiggle room for tech room. So for Nicky's build in particular, the tech cards I've seen is the finger pistol, not a new tech in any regard, but kind of fell out of favor by the end of OP07, OP08. Most people weren't playing this card, but if we're in a meta where a lot of people are playing like 4-drops, such as like the new Weevil Jinbei combo, right? If you need to kind of slow down an aggressive deck from giving you like a lot of pressure very early, this also has like a good trigger ability which comes up sometimes. So I think this is a good add for some of your potentially rougher matchups. Also being able to get rid of a Cavendish and Bonney is really strong, so I think that's good. Sabo kind of doing the same thing, a little bit more expensive, but it's also a Sabo card. It's also a 5 cost, so we've been seeing this kind of before 8.5. I've seen a lot of decks play this at like 3, 4, 5 or 4 copies, not 5 copies, but being able to use this card for removal can be really great. Kuzan still existing only at 2 copies in Nicky's build, and just generally the pieces we've been seeing otherwise. So I think this deck's very present. It's going to be around for a while, so if you want to beat it, you got to find a way to do so, but I think this is still in a good spot. So congratulations to Nicky, big win for him, and congratulations on that first place. Next up, we've got Holden with their version of Rob Lucci. Holden's been in quite the tear in the last couple of weeks, being able to win the core TCG online event and then getting second place in this one too. So very dominant placing with Rob Lucci, and one of the best Rob Lucci players currently in my mind. So I've seen a lot of people try to change up their list for this event for trying to counter the Dofi. Soap Sheep's been kind of a really good ad for that, because you can Soap Sheep and then use the 4-cost Rob Lucci to be able to get rid of 2 bodies for a pretty cheap cost. So, but in general, it didn't seem to matter, right? Holden is playing honestly a really similar meta deck, if not like 50-50 for the event that he won a couple weeks ago. Still very dominant in this, and just the removal for potential for Rob Lucci is just still so present. It's Bonney and Enel that was popping up this week too. Both those decks just really do not appreciate Rob Lucci saying, cool, you played a big body, well, I'm going to play Gecko Moria, and I had Jack out last turn, which you really can't remove, and then I'm just going to Ice Age and get rid of your guy. So like it's really tough for a lot of like the big tall decks to play right now, because Rob Lucci is so good at removing cards for cheap, and while still getting their own tempo for it. So I think it's really tough for those decks right now, and in particular too, the only issue, like the only reason we're not winning against Black Yellow Luffy is because the Sabo, right? The Sabo is such a bad card for a matchup like Rob Lucci, and if that card didn't exist, right, this deck I think would be like tier 0 really quickly. So but we'll see what happens with it. I think Rob Lucci is still really good, and congratulations to Holden, fantastic run, and well earned on his second place as well. Next up, we've got Doflamingo. So this is EP1 with their version of the Donquixote Doflamingo. Kind of as mentioned, this is a pretty volatile deck right now. There's a lot of different builds running around, unlike stuff like Black Yellow Luffy as well as Rob Lucci, which have been pretty cemented for their builds going into this format. Doflamingo, I've seen like a dozen plus builds from a lot of people. So the fact that you just have a lot of different cards that are great right now, and the fact that you don't really know what the meta looks like, and you're just adjusting to it, I think that's good. But also on the flip side, since there's so many cards your opponent can be running, you have to be really aware of it, right? Red Rock exists. Red Rock versus Raging Tiger, right? This can get rid of Jax, but this one can't. We've got for Femur, we've got cards like the Jozu, which has been popping up, a really good tempo play for getting rid of like 5 costs in your opponent's hand or like board. I think this is honestly still like one of my favorite cards for this deck right now, and surprised at 2 copies. going into it. But you can see this one is a really personalized list. We're seeing a lot of one-ofs and a lot of tech choices. Like Doflamingo 3 cost isn't super present in a lot of builds, but playing one, I can see that. 10-drop Kaido, I would generally play this card in my personal build is running this card at 2 copies. This is just a really good card for late game. We saw this on stream, like really great against Black Yellow Luffy specifically, and can help you in some like longer matchups at times. So you know, it can be a little dead in hand at times too, but I think it's a really good card for stuff like Bonney too. Like unless they have like their shanks, this like gets you card advantage. You're really good at pressuring down like their useless kid if they establish it, and I think this is a really good card for that. It really helps you with like the Bonney matchup, which I also think that the Red Rock helps you with that too. So in general, this is a really solid build. I think EP1 played a really good game throughout the weekend too. So and really interesting to see just how Dofi continues to perform this weekend too. So from this past weekend and moving on from this weekend. So this is the build. I'm looking forward to seeing other builds moving forward. We've got other couple builds on the deck list website, Eggman Events too, but you can check that out if you want to. We're just going to jump to our next one. So we got Fernando to finish up our top 4. I didn't really mention it either. We did have 4 leaders in our top 4, which I think is really exciting. That doesn't really happen as much in this card game. It's any real card game that's really tough to kind of have. But Fernando playing Bonney, I really do like Bonney in this meta right now. I think there's some really good matchups for you and some really good play lines that are kind of tough to interact with. So playing the Baby 5 and the Bonney Searcher, both these are really great. They sometimes have some unfortunate overlap with it, and I think the other kind of weird thing about this deck right now is some of our best cards are like Carrot, are like Cody Jones, are even like Shanks at sometimes, and none of these cards are searchable in this deck. We have Bonney and Baby 5, which does find a lot of our good cards, but they don't specifically find our like end game cards either, like our like matchup warpers, right? Like if you're playing Doflamingo and you find your Carrot, you're in a really good spot if you play it on curve, and if you don't, you just feel like you're just a little bit behind throughout the game. So I think that's something impactful. I've been seeing a lot of people jump down to 3 copies of Basil, which I think makes sense. You do have to kind of find room for your other stuff, and without having counter, this card's a little bit tough at times. I think Useless Kid's a little bit better than usual right now too, being able to be again good against the Doflamingo in particular. That helps it out a lot. You do still be afraid. You're still afraid of the Rob Lucci removing it, but Rosinante can help you there too. If they are playing Red Rock, Useless Kid does get bombed pretty good, so that is pretty tough. And then just our late game of just the Shanks and the Doflamingo 10 drop. So I think Bonney is solid. I would sleeve it up for an event right now, and I'm looking forward to seeing how it does in the next couple weeks too. So this is Fernando's, and congratulations to Fernando for their top 4 there. Next up, we got Nami, which again, I was not expecting this card or this deck to top this event. I don't think a lot of other people were, because again, there's only like 20 or so in this event, but the fact that we were able to get an X2 in a room like this full of Doflamingo players, I think is really a really good run for this deck too. So this is Syndaket's version of it, and I think it's nothing particularly new, right? We might have like some adjustments for like the Dofi matchup, but not really, right? We just have like a couple extra 2Ks, like 4 Opus instead of like the I generally see like, you know, 2 Opus, 3, but 4. So have that additional 2K for you there. It does help. You have the Daz Bones, which is, you know, take it or leave it, I think at this point, and then are just plentiful events too. So nothing too wild. I think this is just a standard Nami list, and Syndicate had a really good run, and just real big congratulations to their top 16 with the Nami there. So there it is there. Next up, we got Enel, and so we got 2 players. We got Teej and Zekekun with their versions of it, both getting the top 16. I'll say it one more time. I'm pretty done saying this, but I was super wrong. I didn't think Enel was viable in this meta. It wasn't doing anything in vanilla OP08, and I think it's inherently better because of Doflamingo being around. So being able to kind of outgrind them and get that advantage and get that removal, I think that does help Enel in general for this one. I think Enel just had like a really good day as well, right? We only had 66 people on it, but 4 of them were able to get the top 32, which is really great. And I do think that if you have like favorable matchups into the Dofi, that does help. I do also want to say that I think like the Kaido was a really good it's great against Enel, right? They have a hard time answering this. This means that you can't get starved out of resources a lot of time, and that does kind of help. But just the fact that I think Enel being present in this meta is something I wasn't really expecting. So I'll know it moving forward. I'm just going to say it one more time, but just in case you haven't seen my previous videos since my tier list. So anyways, for Teej's version, I think one of the big things for this deck right now is just the removal options for us. Nami is a really good card removal. Luffy is a really good card removal for 4 costs and 5 costs, which again, blue Dofi plays a lot of. Gadatsu, you can just like attack into Doflamingo once, and then your Gadatsu can still remove their 4 costs. So I think that's great for this card in this meta specifically. Gadatsu has just always been like a weird card, like, right, if you have time to give choke your opponent for life, or if they're not if they're a 4 life leader and you just kind of pause, sometimes this can get a lot of value if seen on curve, but sometimes you're giving your opponent like a lot of wait time, and you're giving some inherent advantage for that removal. So it's a weird kind of back and forth for that one. Other than that, we just have like our top end that we expect. We have Enel, Katakuri, Yamato, Ace, and then our Raigo and such. Bonney's been a new ad from OP08 since it does have like a really good trigger effect. It's kind of like a mini Shirahoshi. Obviously you don't get the body, but you still get the cycle, which is really nice. And then also the fact that you're able to potentially, if you've got like nothing better to do against a slower matchup, you can play it out early, and then you're able to like attach Dawn. Like the fact that you get to like get a +1 in card advantage with this is nice. So you don't obviously have like an inherent card draw and search for our top end, so the Bonney does help you out in that one too. So, and then also from Teej's build, this one's just really condensed, right? We do have like the 4 of the Nami, and then also the Nami and Gadatsu and the Luffy. So honestly, just like a really condensed version of this deck. We also are playing 4 copies of Enel, which is a lot, but I do think that being able to play a 7-drop 7k can help you with some removal and just kind of direct some attacks and removal options for it. So I think this is an okay meta for Enel to exist right now as a leader, and the 7-drop for it. And then obviously this is a little bit more personalized, a couple more 1-ofs and techs, but I think Enel's both decks are in a good spot, and congratulations to both Teej and Zekekun for their finishes there. And then next up we've got Monkey.D.Luffy. This is the purple one. This is Egoist's list, who ended up going 10-0 throughout the day 1, so they were the top seed, and then unfortunately didn't get past the Bonney in the top 32. So, but this is a pretty good list. One thing that I definitely am going to change for all my purple Luffy lists moving forward, Magellan carried so many of the matchups, like so many of these games that he played Magellan and just won the match almost afterward. Like, he was in such a good spot against so many different lists, right? And I think this is like a deck that you're a little bit afraid to play the Magellan, just because like Doflamingo counters this card so much. Like it's dead in hand, the fact that like they don't really mind going down a Dawn, and the fact that they can have ways to remove this card without KOing it, so they don't lose the Dawn either. But against decks like Black Yellow Luffy, Rob Lucci, and Bonney, I think all of them hate to see this Magellan, because they either have to like, and obviously Enel, if Enel is going to be more present, Magellan is a really tough card for that deck to see kind of hit the board. So unless you like 8-drop Katakuri to their life, or you hit like a really like early Onami trigger, since it's only on KO on your opponent's turn, which is nice. So that does help the card out a lot. But other than that, I think like the package that we see generically is still good. We still have like the new cards. We got Zorjiro, Luffy. I really like Charlotte Linlin. I've been seeing some people do like a 4-2 split instead of a 3-3. We got the Gum Gum Jet Gatling, and then Usohachi, which is again such a good card when we're in such a Sabo blocker meta for a lot of these decks. So being able to counter that's really nice. So anyways, this is Egoist list. Congratulations on their top 32, and what a run on Saturday. What a really good run. So this is their build there. And then wrap it up, we got Smoker. This is Hot Dog's version of it, and I'm really happy that we had a Smoker in the top 32. I think this deck is really strong, and there's a lot of great potential for this deck in general in the future. I think Rob Lucci is still a better deck. They are able to get better copies of 8-drop Moria to hit the board and have better combos with it, but I do do like what this kind of identifies differently from others. So every time I talk about Smoker, I gotta talk about Toshigi. So clearly this card is really good. Impresses how good Smoker can be. It really kind of helps you build tempo early and just get a 5-drop 6k, which is kind of tricky for some decks to really efficiently handle, which is really nice. And then we do have kind of like a lot of our Navy package, right? Brand new, like never whiffs in this deck. Sengoku's a really good early cycler to help you find your Gecko Morias. We also do have like our Brook, which is fantastic in this deck and many others. And then also the top end was a little interesting for me. I don't always see Jack in this deck. It makes sense in Rob Lucci because you get the free Dawn or cost -1 and you can get rid of a 4 cost with Jack. You do have to, like, this card like prefers you go second, but I also think like once you establish this, it stays on the board for the rest of the game, which is really strong. Other than that, obviously Moria Isho is a really great card for against Black Yo Luffy and some others. Can be dead in hand later, but also the fact that it's a Navy card means that your Sengoku can get that cycle with it too. So the other thing is that I've been seeing Kobe pop up a little bit more in these builds. It's a Navy card. It's a little bit like expensive, but being able to get rid of a 3 or less, you do have to trash a card in hand. But the fact that you can do like something like Helmeppo, give something -3, and then you can use like Rebecca to play the Kobe, and then like Gecko, Rebecca, Helmeppo, and then Kobe there. You can get rid of a 6 cost, and then with Smoker, the fact you can get rid of a 7 cost kind of thing. So I think that's good. It helps you if something doesn't get enough reductions for a Brook, you can use Kobe instead at the cost of like an extra card, and it's an okay body on the board. So we'll see how Smoker does the next couple weeks. I'm a big fan of this deck, and a big congratulations to Hot Dog for their finish there. But that's going to be it for this one. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Thank you to everyone who came up to me this weekend too and said hi. Also, shouts to my AZ group. I really do miss Arizona. It was really great to see y'all. Shouts to also Clay and for Michael for getting top 8 as well, and everyone from Arizona. It was really nice to see y'all. So but that's going to be it. Again, thank you guys for watching. Make sure to check out the deck list, and make sure to watch the tournament VOD, which is right now for members, and will be out in the next 24 hours or so. So that's going to be it for me. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll catch you all next time.